All right, first off, I'm Karen Peak. Thank you guys for coming this evening. I'm going to share with you a little bit about my story first, and then we're going to get into the yummy food that we're going to prepare and let you guys munch on today. I grew up very, very healthy. I didn't have any sicknesses. I never got out of school like I wanted to for being sick. I was always so healthy. My dad was a doctor, and I think that was part of it. You get cursed when your dad's a doctor, because then you can't play sick because he knows if you are or not. But I always wanted to skip school and stay home and be sick, and boy, do I regret that, because in 2006, my life changed. I was diagnosed with Graves' disease. Anyone familiar with Graves? Do you have Graves, or you just know? Oh, okay. Well, Graves' disease is it can be fun in some aspects because you can eat anything you want and pig out like crazy and not gain any weight. You keep losing all your weight, and your eyeballs bulge out, and you look kind of funny like the Runaway Bride. Remember her eyeballs? You also get a baseball in your throat from the goiter that your thyroid grows, and you have hot flashes, and you have high pulse, and you're just sweating up a storm. So 2006, that was the first time I'd ever really been sick, and I didn't know what that was like, and I didn't go to the doctor because I was like, oh, I'm fine, there's nothing wrong, but I started getting sick all the time, and I was like, okay, me sweating like this isn't normal. One meal, I ate 4 cheeseburgers, 4 hot dogs, and a whole bag of chips in one meal because my Graves' disease just made me so hungry, but I still got so skinny. I was so happy. Bad news about the whole thing. My doctor told me, I'm sorry, we have to remove your thyroid because it is so hot and dangerous. You're in mid-thyroid stream. We got to get this thing out of you. So the fun ended pretty quickly after that. We had a scheduled date for my thyroidectomy, and then the day before the operation, I am not kidding you, the surgeon calls and says, you will die on the table tomorrow if we operate because your thyroid is so hot and out of control that the second we put anesthesia in you, you're going to go into thyroid storm. Now, thyroid storm means I'm going to get a temperature of 105 plus, my heart is going to convulse out of control, and I'm going to die because my heart is so screwed up in the temperature. He said, we don't want you dying. I thanked him for that. So he wanted to postpone the surgery for 1 month to see if we could cool it down with some medicine. Never did. It didn't change. So the surgeon says, we've got to remove this from your body. So what he did, he gave me everything I needed in preparation, and he said, we're going to have extra doctors in here, so if you start thyroid storm, we can do everything we can to cool your body temperature down and do what we need to do to get it out of your system. I did go into thyroid storm, but luckily he did have doctors in there that were able to get me from dying, because you see I'm standing here today. It's not fake. So the thyroid came out. I was great. For 5 to 6 months, I could run, I could work, I was a nurse. All I ever wanted to do was nursing. I loved blood and gore. Nursing, I thought, was the best way. So 6 months later, I started getting weird symptoms again. And these symptoms were similar to the thyroid symptoms, where I was getting shortness of breath like you see now. This isn't nerves, I promise. I get short of breath when my heart condition rears its ugly head. So I have a heart condition and an adrenal disease. They go together. And my symptoms were shortness of breath, hot flashes, high heart rate of 100 plus all the time, gets up to 200. It's sitting, I mean, I stay high. I also get heart palpitations. I am nauseous 24/7, and I'm not even pregnant, so I don't even get to enjoy that aspect of being nauseous. I also have attacks. The attacks are very similar to a heart attack. I have the symptoms of a heart attack. At 1 second, like a light switch going on, my body starts convulsing with high heart rate. It just shoots up out of control by itself. My palpitations are starting. My nausea kicks in. My bladder wants to explode. Every symptom that my body can go through, I go through all at the same time, and it's the symptoms of a heart attack. They can last for 30 minutes. They can last for 6 hours. It just shuts off when it wants to shoot off, and it just starts whenever it wants to start. And that's part of the disease. I also have migraines every 2 weeks for 3 straight days. Nothing gets rid of them. So this disease is also a lifelong disease. I will never get rid of this. They don't even know how it happened. No one in my family has this disease. And we were devastated because we went from doctor to doctor over and over and over to hear, I don't know what's wrong with you. This is something I've never heard of before. I think you're crazy. Go on to someone else. After a while, you kind of get devastated. But finally, Mayo Clinic in Minnesota said, we'll take you on. We did 5 straight days of testing. All day long, every day, I had a test done to see if I could get figured out. These doctors were amazing. They figured me out. I was so happy and angry at the same time. I was happy because they told me, yes, we know what's wrong with you, but I was angry because I didn't want to be told what was wrong with me because I didn't want to be sick. I didn't want to have a lifelong illness. I wanted to be able to be a nurse still and do everything that I always did. And they told me, you can never work. It's too dangerous to work because of the attacks. I'm a liability on the job. They told me it's too dangerous to have children. And they basically said, your life is over. Stay at home and take care of yourself. Boy, was I angry with that because I couldn't nurse anymore. I went through a 1-year nursing school, which, boy, made me a woman that year because you were cramming 4 years into one. Very, very difficult. I would not recommend it to anyone unless you're crazy and want something to challenge you, then go for it. So I went home angry. They told me that it was a POTS disease, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. That's the adrenal. And a way to explain it for you guys to understand it, in school, you learn a fight and flight. Remember that in school, fight, flight? I'm in constant flight, which explains the shortness of breath, which explains the hot flashing, which explains the high heart rate, because my body pretends a predator is constantly going after me, and I have to try to fight off the predator, and my body stays in constant flight. That's the adrenal condition. Now, I'm special. I get 2 conditions. I get 2 diseases. The other one's a heart condition. It is called inappropriate sinus tachycardia. And that means that my heart rate can go from 97 to 150 just like that. And it just is erratic. It just is crazy. And a part of that, the adrenal disease, will shoot up extra adrenaline to the heart, which makes it even crazier. So I'm a complete mess, I must say. So going home from that weekend, I was angry. I was bitter. My life was taken away from me, and I was young. It wasn't fair that I couldn't work anymore. I was only a nurse for 6 to 7 years. And I went through that nursing school for what reason? I was devastated. I came home bitter and angry with anyone healthy. I hated God for what he did to me, or in my case, what I thought he did to me. And I was crazy. My husband's grandmother called. Get this is how crazy and angry I was. She called me and said, I love your curtains. I want to reduplicate those at my house. Can you please let me see how you do your curtains and you come over and do them for me? I screamed at her. I literally screamed at her and said, no, I'm not giving you my curtains. And I was yelling at her. And it's just because I just was angry. You didn't want to know me back then. I was very mean and I don't know how he stayed with me. We were on the verge of separation and divorce because when you go from being one person, I was extremely extroverted. I was full of life, to going to the disease that knocks you down. You're introverted all of a sudden. You don't know what to do. Finances are ruined because I can't work. We're having to pay the mortgage. We can't even pay my doctor bills because they're just sky high through the roof. We didn't know how to stay. We didn't know what to do as a married couple. So we were going through a possible divorce during this time. I lost all my friends because my friends didn't like that I wasn't the old me. They didn't like the fact that I was sick and I was a burden to them. So they left me. It was a very lonely couple of years, I must say. So during this time, I have a heart surgery, thinking, okay, maybe we can help the problem just a little bit. Boy, was I wrong. They did the surgery, they found some stuff, but it didn't fix my problem. So from that point on, I had to learn a new normal, as they put it. This is my lifelong disease. This is the rest of my life. These are my symptoms on a daily basis. I've got to just deal with it. So all these months and years sitting at home, staring at the walls, bored to tears, griping at my husband. He wants to kill me because I'm driving him crazy. He wants me to get off my butt and do something, and I'm just like, no, I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to stay here and be angry and yell at you. Finally, we go home to a UT football game. We're both from Tennessee, and I'm not a Vol fan. I'm a mascot fan for any football team. I could care less about football, but I went home to support him and what he wants to do, which is UT football. And so my parents have season tickets. We went home that weekend. An added bonus, Don Piper, anyone familiar with his book, 90 Minutes in Heaven? Yep. I had no clue that he was speaking at my parents' church that weekend. But he was speaking his testimony at that church, and I got to tell you, I don't like to read much. It's not my thing. But I did read his book. And the reason why, it's full of blood and gore, my kind of thing. So I loved his book. And so that actually was the only thing that made me happy about going home that weekend, was I get to hear his testimony. And we get to church, and guess what happens? I have an attack. I didn't get a thing out of his testimony. I was devastated. And we're sitting up there on the pew. This is one of the worst attacks ever. And I only get 18 words out of the entire testimony. 18. He spoke a long time, and I only got 18 words. That's kind of funny, but God knew what he was doing in those 18 words. He said in those words, if God can bring a dead man back to life, just imagine what he could do for you. And I sat there and I said, you know what? You're right. I'm not a dead man. I'm not dead. I still have a heartbeat. It's crazy, but I still have one. I have legs and I have arms. I can do stuff. I have a big mouth. I can use it. And so I told him at that second when I heard those words, I prayed and I said, God, I want you to remove all the anger out of my life. Something I didn't tell you. I was suicidal growing up. I wanted to kill myself, and I tried every possible way, except a gun because we didn't have one, but I tried every way to kill myself as a child. I had a rough life growing up. I was abused by ex-boyfriends, by friends, and I grew up in a Christian home, but sometimes that doesn't help, and you just want to end your life. My dad was military. I'm sure some of you in here are familiar with military life. You're constantly moving. You have no idea where you're going, when you're going to go. You don't know who your friends are. You don't know who you're going to make friends with, and it's just a scary time in your life. That didn't help my suicide attempts either. I had it was all the abuse and just moving. I wanted to die. And so that September weekend, that church service, I prayed, I want all that anger that I kept built up in my life all those years gone. Get rid of every bit of it. I don't want it. I want true peace and happiness, which I have never experienced in my life. Now, I became a Christian at the age of 10, but I can tell you now, I did not know what a true relationship with God was until this very day, because he changed my life miraculously when I prayed. When I said, I want all the anger out, I want all the bitterness out, I want to be truly happy. And the thing that made the most importance of the whole thing is, God, I will accept this disease. That is all he wanted from me, was to hear, I will happily accept this disease with all the symptoms, with all the baggage that comes with it. I accept it. I'm going to live it happily. I'm going to do whatever you want me to do joyfully. I'm yours. Use me in whatever way you want. The second I accepted this disease, I started crying. Couldn't help myself. I was weeping. Chris, my husband, thought I was having a heart attack, that was pretty common because he always thinks I'm having a heart attack, so it wasn't anything new for him, but he'd been over and said, are you okay? Because I was crying hysterically. I said, I'm fine. I'm having a moment with God right now. Just give me a few minutes. I'm talking with God. I'm fine, but thanks for asking. We keep on through the service, and I am just praying, and I'm praying, and I'm crying, and God gives me a vision. It scared me to death. I've never had a vision. I've never had prophetic word. I didn't know what that meant, but he gave me a vision. He told me to write a cookbook, and I laughed in his face, and I said, excuse me, you don't want me to write in a cookbook. You do not, and I'll explain later, and it's going to be really sad that he wanted me to write a book because I couldn't cook. Then he tells me, after you write your cookbook, I want you to do speaking. I want you to be a motivational speaker, and I want you to have a TV talk show. And I was like, seriously? You're really kidding now, because I don't like being on TV. I don't like speaking. I just want to be a nurse and leave me alone. But with God, he's going to take you out of that comfort zone. He's going to tell you what he wants you to do, and you just kind of have to go with it, be obedient, and do what he says. So I said, okay, I'll write a cookbook. You're crazy, but I'll write one. We came home from that September weekend, and I discovered there's a Food Network and a cooking channel. Did y'all know that existed? Yeah, yay. That is where I actually went to culinary school. I got to stay at home in my PJs and watch my TV of cooking and everything, and that was the coolest experience I can say I would ever enjoy school doing. So I came home, and I did all this stuff. Now I'm going to regress a little bit and tell you my cooking disasters of why I told God, no way, I am not writing you a cookbook. Okay, when I was young, my father was at war. My mom went walking with a friend, and it was me home alone in the house, and I was hungry. I wanted a little snack to tide me over for dinner. I get a bagel, and I put it in the microwave. Can anyone see where this is going? I am really blonde. I'm not afraid to say it. I put it in for 10 minutes, not 10 seconds. And I left the kitchen, and I realized in the back of the house it started smelling of smoke, and it got black really fast, and I was like, okay, something's not right here. I ran in the kitchen, the whole house is full of black smoke, and the microwave is on fire, the bagel was on fire, Paper towel it's on is on fire. Everything's on fire. So there's my one cooking disaster. I was like, no way, I'm not doing a cookbook. I burned Jell-O. You can burn Jell-O. It is possible to burn Jell-O. I didn't know at the time you're supposed to put the water in the sauce pot and then put the Jell-O in the pot over here, the little baking dish, and then you pour the hot water on the Jell-O. I didn't know that. So I put the Jell-O in the sauce pot. It burned to the bottom. That ruined it. I ruined brownies because I don't read directions, so I added too much water. We had soupy brownies instead of anything. Now, the best one is Thanksgiving weekend. I wanted to cook a turkey for my in-laws. It was exciting. It was my first turkey, and I was going to do it. I bought this beautiful bird, and I put herbs in it, and I had onion and all this wonderful stuff in it. It was the most beautiful thing, raw. I wanted to eat it just like that. Stuck it in the oven. I didn't understand how to do the timing and how to do the temperature. That was correct. Took it out when it told me it was done. Start to carve it, and guess what? It's bleeding. And blonde me didn't think, oh, if you put it back in the oven, it'll finish cooking. I thought I killed the bird and ruined it. It was done. So what I did was I kept carving, put it in a dish, threw it over the fence. Because I didn't think if you put it in the oven, it would finish cooking. The juices would run clear. Everything was fine. So we ate half a bird for Thanksgiving. The foxes and everything in the woods behind my house ate the rest of our Thanksgiving turkey. So good for them. I fed them for Thanksgiving. But literally, that is why I told God, I am not good at writing a cookbook. I don't want to kill people. I don't want to poison them. I don't think I'm your girl. But he said, you just have faith in me. We're going to do this. One birthday, we went to for a birthday party for my husband's coworker. I have never met this girl a day in my life. She has never met me. She didn't even know Chris. She and I were in a conversation with a bunch of other women, and all of a sudden, she kind of freaks everyone out because she just stops and stands forward and says, God told me to tell you that whatever it is you're working on, it's going to be huge. And everyone's like, what's going on? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't know you from anywhere. But she said, God told me just now that whatever it is you're working on, it's going to be very successful and it's going to be very huge. And I just kind of looked at her, and she was like, hello, are you here? And I was like, yeah. And she said, do you know what I'm saying? And I said, what's going on? How do you know I'm doing something? And she said, are you working on something? I said, yes, I'm writing a cookbook right now. And she said, did God tell you to write the cookbook? I said, yes, he told me to write the cookbook. She said, he wanted me to confirm to you, because I pray every night, literally, God, if this is what you want me to do, I want you to give me confirmation that I'm doing exactly what you told me to do, because I don't want to mess this up. I went home scared. I have never had word of prophecy given to me before. I was scared out of my mind. I go home, my favorite book in all the world, my favorite devotion book is the Jesus Calling book. I don't know if you're familiar. That is my favorite book. So I went home, and that devotion that night, it freaked me out a little more because it was talking about the virtual life and how if you want to live a victorious life, this is how you do it. This is what it said. God is going to give you something out of your wildest dreams, a new passion. He's going to give it to you, and he is going to have it be successful, and you're going to have some failures, and you're going to be successful in the same time, but if you just keep trusting in him, he is going to help you through it. So I was like, all right, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. All this to say, I did write the cookbook. Beforehand, Chris and I literally only ate boxed meals every single night, so this right here is a miracle for people who knew me in my past. We would eat like a pot pie on one night, boxed lasagna on another night, chicken pot pie another night, hamburger helper another night, Mexican on Friday night because I should have been born Mexican because I really like their food more than anything else. And I cooked one meal that my mom, it's a family secret, spaghetti. That's the only thing that wasn't boxed that we ate for 3 or 4 years. I don't know how we weren't as big as a barn eating what we were eating, but this is truly a miracle. I ended up writing over 1,000 recipes. I have now written several thousand recipes, and to show you, God kept his promise. As long as I obey, as long as I'm doing what he told me to do, this can happen. We found a designer who my sister worked with. She had never met him, didn't really know what to do about it, but he told her before she left her job, if you need anything, let me know. I'll be happy to help you. She said, my sister is actually doing a cookbook. Can you help her design it? He said, absolutely. We got that ball and rolling in motion. We got gifts from people for money, because this does cost a lot of money. And God supplied. And here we have my finished product. And this is my story to you. This is showing you that no matter what happens in life, no matter what lemons you get, no matter what card is dealt to you, a loss of a child, loss of a job, if you have an illness like me that's long-term that you're never going to get rid of, just trust God, just give faith, and do not give up. Yes, denial is going to be part of it. I went through 2 years of denial, as I was telling you about. But once you accept what's going on in your life, God is going to give you a new dream. He's going to help you through it, and He's going to make your life incredible like you never believed when you get finished with it. And here's living proof of that. I'll go ahead and describe the book to you. This is a book that's never been written before. I have my recipes at the top of every page. Then you have tips on how to prepare your food better, how to save money, because as you heard, I can't pay my bills. So I had to cook on a budget. So I teach you here how to cook on a budget. I also teach you how to keep your brown sugar from hardening, get garlic off your fingers when you use raw garlic. I give you all these different tips. But the best part, if you're a vegan, gluten-free, vegetarian, peanut allergy, or dairy allergy, this cookbook is for you. I think you're probably thinking there's no way all that can be in one book, but it can. My recipes are at the top of every page. At the bottom of every page, if you are gluten intolerant or if you're a vegan, you're going to swap out one of the ingredients that you cannot eat or you just don't want to eat for the alternative at the bottom of the page. That way, if you have a vegan in your family and a meat eater, you don't have to cook 2 different meals. Cook the same meal, but just switch out one ingredient. Everyone wins. There's also no page flipping, and I've scared a few people with this too. I don't measure. I hate measuring, and I'm not a baker, and that's what bakers do, and that's the difference, I guess, between baking and cooking. But I have ranges in my cookbook. I love flavor. I'm obsessed with flavor. Since I have high cholesterol, I can't use a lot of salt and fried foods and cream stuff, so I have to flavor with herbs and spices, which, by the way, I had no clue what a spice rack or spice jar was. I got it as a wedding gift, and it sat there for decoration for 8 years because I didn't know what it was for. And that's what I use, and not the expired ones, of course. But that's what I use to flavor my food, is the spices from the spice rack and fresh herbs. I don't need salt. I don't use salt. As you see, there's no salt on this table anywhere. And I make the most flavorful food. Now, if you're kind of scared of flavor, or you're not that big on flavor, start at the smaller end of the range, and as you cook along, if you keep tasting it, if you want a little more, add a little more. You can add it to the point where I have it at the top of the range, and it's your decision, what you want. I can't stand cookbooks that tell you 1 tablespoon, 1 teaspoon, and you have to follow their rules. I'm a rule breaker in that way, not the other way. So that's what I want you to do. Be your own chef. Make cooking fun, and that's exactly what cooking should be, is fun. And I'm going to show you today that we can make food that you think is so bad for you healthy. So, who actually thought deviled eggs could be healthy? Anyone in here like deviled eggs? Oh, you think? Well, some of them can be, but the ones I grew up on, and I'm a Southern girl, we grew up with loaded bunches of mayonnaise inside of it, and mayonnaise is a big no-no. You don't want mayonnaise. So, I'm going to teach you guys how to do healthy deviled egg, and then y'all are going to make them all the time. I'm going to clean my hands first because I'm a germaphobe, and y'all are eating this food.
So how long have you been cooking and working on your cookbook?
Since 2008, September 2008. Very quick. When God tells you to do something, you move and He does. It's kind of scary, but it's been a fun journey so far.
Did you have a favorite cook on TV like Rachel Ray or?
She and I have a love-hate relationship, literally. I watched her, and I kind of watched a little bit of everyone, and it wasn't the people I watched, it was the food that they were cooking. And I learned the technique. I learned how to do the chopping. That's the kind of stuff that I was learning more than watching someone in particular with their cooking style.
I liked her to do it all.
That is my kind of cooking. I cannot, with my disease, I can't stand up for very long without getting issues, and so most of my recipes, if not all of them, are very quick cooking ones, so you're not in the kitchen all day long.
Would you like a chair now?
After, in a little bit, maybe. My heart rate's up right now, and I'm a little shaky, but I'll be good for the most part. Today's been a bad day physically, so I'm doing the best I can. Hopefully I'll make it. Feel free to ask any other questions. Oh, and I'll go ahead and tell you, I'm sure you all know this, eggs are very high in protein. I'm sure you know. And at every curves I've done, Everyone in here has to know what protein does for your body. They get very angry with you if you don't know. So who in here can tell me what the benefits of eating a high-protein diet is? Anyone? The muscles, exactly. Less fat, exactly. So we are going to be eating a very high-packed protein diet tonight. So you're going to go home, and you're never going to want to eat again, because that's the good benefit of protein. It fills you up, or you're not going to be hungry. Carbohydrates, especially the simple, complex ones. You're going to be hungry after about 15, 20 minutes of eating that stuff, and you're going to want to eat again. And you're going to have this roller coaster of emotion of I'm happy and then I'm moody, get away from me. And protein does not do that. You're going to stay full longer, and you're going to stay perky longer, and you're not going to want to get murdered by anyone. So we have our eggs. And by the way, you just hard boil them 10 minutes, they're good to go. And who in here hates taking shell off eggs? I learned a trick. Every single time, put them under, after they're cooled a little bit, run them under cold water. As you peel it, the peel comes right off. You don't fight the egg. You don't fight it anymore. I don't like mayonnaise. You will not see mayonnaise once in my cookbook. This is Greek yogurt. Who would have thought to put Greek yogurt in your deviled egg? Anyone? No one? Really? Ah. It's really good, I promise. Oh, yeah.
Have you drained some of the liquid off of the yogurt?
Yes, it comes strained.
Wow.
Yes, I didn't know either. But if you don't buy the strained yogurt, you actually, it says in my cookbook what to do. You get cheesecloths or paper towels, and you put the yogurt inside of the cheesecloth and let it drain over a little strainer for about 15, 20 minutes, and the excess water is going to come out of it. That's if you don't buy it strained like this, which I was lucky, it comes strained. And Greek yogurt is extremely high in protein, so now we're doubling up the protein in our deviled egg. Who likes vinegars? Vinegars are no calories. You could drink the bottle and never gain anything. So vinegars are your best friend with cooking. They add flavor, and they also have a good calorie thing where you're not going to sit there and feel guilty eating it.
Is it apple cider vinegar?
You can use any vinegar you want. My favorite is rice wine vinegar along with balsamic vinegar. I've done the eggs both ways. As I tell you in the book, I want you to be your own chef. You use whatever flavor that makes you happy. But tonight, I'm using rice wine vinegar. As you see, I need a little bit more yogurt, so I'm going to add a little more, and that's basically cooking. You just kind of add as you go, and just keep adding to the consistency that you like.
Can you use that instead of mayonnaise a lot of times, all the time?
Can you use Greek yogurt, are you asking?
Yeah, I saw it in a recipe.
Yep. I actually always use Greek yogurt instead of mayonnaise. And if you wanted to, you could even, if you wanted a little bit more fat, use sour cream. Does the very same thing. Also, I've also been told, has anyone tried the vegan mayonnaise? It's just soybeans. It tastes just like mayonnaise, they say. So that's an option. If you wanted mayonnaise, go the vegan version, and then it'll taste just like mayonnaise and just as good. And you also get more healthy because it's got protein in it. Okay, now we got the inside of our eggs. We're going to fill them. Just take a little dollop, stick it in the hole. And I can do more of this later while you guys are eating just to save time, but that's basically how you make them. Add a little paprika to your tops and green onion. A little color and a little flavor. So that's how you make your very high-filled, packed protein deviled eggs. Awesome. Now, it tastes so good. You could eat 5, 6 of those and not feel guilty eating them. It's amazing. Because that's the way I like to eat. As you heard, my 4 hamburgers and hot dogs, you really want to pig out. All right, mac and cheese. I'm going to scare you eating this because we are going to make it so healthy you're not going to know what to do with yourself. Extra virgin olive oil. Who uses it to cook? You need to. This oil does not clog your arteries like vegetable oils do. You want to definitely use this. It's also heart healthy for people like me, and for other people, you want to keep your heart healthy. That's the way you want to go. We're going to add shallots to the mac and cheese because a way to make it healthier is if you add vegetable to it. It makes it healthier for you. You don't feel as guilty. So we're going to add some shallots.
You have to use shallots
Nope, you can use red onion, you can use green onion, you can use white onion, whatever onion you want, you just stick it in there. I just love the flavor of shallot. It's not strong like biting on a raw onion. But by the way, if you don't like the taste of raw onion, if you put it in vinegar and let it sit for a few minutes, the bite of the onion goes away, and you can eat it without it stinging your mouth. Like red onion really stings when I eat it plain. Yeah, just a vinegar. Any flavor vinegar you want, it'll work. And the cool thing about onion, did y'all know it burns fat in your body? I cook with onion literally every meal. It's not funny. I probably smell bad to people, but onion really does burn fat in your body. That's part of the chemical makeup of it. So if you feeling fat one day, just chew on some onion. It might kill little cells in there for you. You never know. So we're just going to make these to where they're a little bit translucent. What's that? Yep, that's what's cooking now. These little things. I did my chopping beforehand, so you're not here till midnight. Do you usually cook with shallots? They're not in the onion section. If you know where the garlic is in the potato section, that's where they keep them. Yeah, it's kind of funny. They don't really keep them near the... Okay. Now, who's heard of a roux? Good. You can use olive oil for your roux. You can use butter. Now, you don't want to use too much butter, because then you're defeating your purpose there. But just put a few tablespoons of butter.
That's real butter.
It's been sitting for a little bit. And you want to let it melt down a little bit before you do anything else. So we're just going to stick it in here on the side. Let it melt some. And then you add flour. This is whole wheat flour. Whole wheat flour is very good for you. After it's melted down and you've got a little bit of just the fluid of the butter, you're going to add the same amount of butter that you add in flour. If you do 2 tablespoons butter, you're going to do 2 tablespoons flour, 3 tablespoons, 3 tablespoons. And you want to stir and stir and stir the flour in so it turns into a paste. And who knows what this is supposed to do? Anyone? It's a thickener, exactly. Now, what is the next thing y'all know that you're supposed to add to mac and cheese? Milk. Well, guess what I'm adding? Chicken stock. Low sodium chicken stock. Has anyone ever thought to do chicken stock instead of milk? This is what makes it even healthier for you. So we're going to add several cups of chicken stock. And you're going to keep stirring the flour in to make the paste go away. Now I am going to add milk to make it that creamy, but I'm only adding 1/4 to 1/2 cup. Can you believe you can make mac and cheese with that little milk? It's amazing. Literally trial and error. I have a very, very high cholesterol, so I have to learn to cook healthy. And so I'm being a nurse. God gave me the ability to use my degree, and I learned in nursing school, if it's see-through, that's what you want to drink. Anything see-through is healthy. Anything that's creamy is bad. Full of fat, you don't want it. So I kind of use the nursing knowledge for that too. This is starting to thicken up a little bit. So now is when I'm going to add that tiny, tiny bit of milk that we were talking about. You can use any type of milk you want. If you are vegan, use soy, almond. You can use whole milk. I actually don't use whole milk in my house. We use the healthier milk, but it works either way. Whatever milk that makes you happy, you go for it and you use it. And you're just going to mix this in here as well. Now, since we are at Curves and we're trying to pack in the protein, I'm going to show you that you don't have to just add cheese and you're done. We're going to add vegetable to it. Who in here loves cannellini beans, white beans? Everyone in here? What you do is you just puree vegetable. You can do cauliflower, butternut squash, whatever vegetable you like. That's the cheese color that you're making. Just puree it and then add it to your recipe. That way, if you have picky eaters at home that don't like eating their vegetable, they'll never know that you have it in their mac and cheese. This is just 1 can that's pureed. And make sure when you're at the store looking at your ingredients, you do not want to buy the stuff that is packed with oil and a lot of salt. You want it packed with water. And always drain them in a colander in the sink because that gets off the excess sodium. which I don't know if y'all want to stick in your fit in your pants better. You want to get rid of that. So definitely try to wash off the excess sodium. And then you just puree it after you cook up the vegetable or just the bean here as you see. Okay, y'all are probably thinking this is really gross. It has to have cheese. Well, we're going to add a whole bunch of cheese, not a whole bunch, but a good amount that's going to be the only fat in this meal you're going to be eating. Did you know that Parmesan cheese is the highest protein-packed cheese that they have? Did y'all know that? So Parmesan is good for you. You definitely want to eat some Parm. We're going to add 3 different types of cheese. We're just going to add about half a cup to a cup of each one just to get a different consistency and flavor. We're going to have a little bit of nutty flavor with the Parm. We're also going to add some cheddar. Who in here likes cheddar, everyone? Sharp cheddar. Did you know the sharper the cheese, the less you eat because you don't need as much, because the sharper it is, the more flavor it has, so you're actually going to be eating less of it. So you definitely want to go for the sharper cheese. And then last, we're going to use Gruyere cheese. Anyone in here opposed to Gruyere? Y'all a fan of Gruyere? Have y'all had Gruyere cheese? It's one of my favorites. It gives a nice nutty flavor to your food. So we're going to add some Gruyere. Now, it looks like you're eating a lot of fat. And cheese, yeah, maybe, but think about it. We put chicken stock in here instead of milk. We added beans in here for boosting up your fiber. So basically, this really isn't that bad for you. The only calorie you're really technically eating is the cheese. I'm going to add a little bit more stock, and that way, do know that if you need it to be a little bit more liquid whenever you're cooking, just add a little bit more, and then it'll be the consistency that you want. All right, now it's time for the pasta. Whole wheat pasta. This is the way to go. You don't want to do semolina pasta if you can help it. You want to definitely do whole grain.
You've already cooked that?
I cooked it because I don't have 2 burners here, so I had to cook it at home. But I cooked it fresh this afternoon right before we came.
Is there a brand of whole wheat?
Just any,
You like better than
we buy whatever's affordable, to be honest. You literally just buy whatever whole wheat pasta there is that you like. The health benefits of whole wheat pasta is, 1, it's loaded with fiber. It keeps you moving. It also helps prevent heart disease and diabetes. It also has no cholesterol or sodium, so you're not adding a bunch of sodium to your diet when you use whole grain pasta.
There's gluten-free pastas.
Yep, brown rice pasta. I actually cook with that a lot at home, and it tastes just as good to me. Actually, I don't see a difference really in whole grain and gluten-free pasta. All right, so guess what? Here's your healthy version of mac and cheese. You can eat this, and you're not going to feel a bit guilty about putting this into your body and eating a good serving amount. Because with fiber, I'm sure you know that the more fiber you eat, the less you eat. So you actually won't be eating much of this anyways. That means I can take the rest home with me. I'm just kidding. This is for you.
Do you usually bake it in the oven after?
I do. Since I don't have a stove here, as you see, you are actually supposed to bake it. And I also put panko breadcrumbs. Panko breadcrumbs don't add a lot of calorie to it, so I usually put some of those on top after I put it in a baking dish. And then I put it in the oven and put a little cheese on top, and you bake it for a few minutes to melt the cheese, and then it's good to go. But since we have to be our own chef here at Curves tonight, we're just going to leave it like this. And I'm going to add a little pepper. Who in here likes black pepper? Because you see, I don't use salt. Also, if you're making mac and cheese, you don't want to add a lot of salt because the cheese has a lot of salt in it. You just don't want it. So use pepper, and it will do the trick.
And is your broth low sodium?
Oh, of course. Everything I do is low sodium, except for the homemade chips, of course. Okay, this is our mac and cheese. Last thing we're going to make is a smoothie. Everyone thirsty? After eating all this, you want to have something good to drink. We're going to make a breakfast smoothie. This really didn't melt much, so we're just going to put him right over there. Who in here likes bananas and orange juice? Everyone? All right, so that means everyone is going to get to enjoy dinner tonight. I'm going to let this stay warm.
Now with the smoothie, you use our blenders that a lot of us ladies already have, or do you?
That's what this is a cheap blender from Target. So yeah, I don't have one of those big fancy things, so definitely a cheap blender is fine.
My daughter-in-law said I need something special.
Oh, you just tell her to shh.
I should have, I did.
You did?
I did.
Handheld blenders, you can use that too. It just takes longer.
Burns more calories.
So your fingers are like this for them.
Now, I love orange juice. Does everyone love it? I usually put about half a container of the frozen orange juice in here with one banana. And then, of course, you want extra flavor, vanilla extract. No calories, good for adding flavor. And then you add milk. Like I said, if you're vegan, go almond, go soy, vegetarian, same. And you just add enough milk to feed everyone.
You wouldn't use yogurt instead, or?
You can. I've done it before, but this I just usually use milk. It's what I have at home all the time. So that's all you do. Stuff all this stuff in your blender. Usually I forget to plug it in, but I'm not going to do that tonight, so I'm not as blonde as normal tonight. We're going to let this just stay warm, and we're going to plug in the blender.
Now, are any of your recipes?
I'm sorry, what'd you say? Sorry about that.
Any of the recipes geared for diabetics, or?
Yep. Have you heard instead of honey using agave nectar or sugar? Agave nectar does not raise insulin levels. So you could drink the bottle basically and your levels will be fine. So for diabetics, you would want to go that route instead of adding sugar. So if I have sugar, you're just going to go down to where the agave nectar is and replace it, and then you're good to go with diabetes. And here we go. Breakfast smoothie, everyone. All right, I'm going to go ahead and discuss the other two things on the table. We have homemade salsa. I love salsa. I could drink it from the bottle. I love it. We have two different ones that I made this afternoon. We have one with a little bit more herbs. It has the cilantro, the basil, and the oregano. And then we have this one on this side, which is just the basic cilantro, onion, garlic powder, onion powder, that kind of thing. So we've got this. And also, did you know instead of using salad dressing, salsa is a great thing to do for salads. It's a great salad dressing. But that's the homemade salsa. Yummy, yummy. You're going to love it. And, of course, the homemade potato chips. You do know you're never allowed to deprive yourself of bad food, because if you deprive it, you're going to want to eat more of it, and it's just not going to be a good life. I'm sure they teach you at Curves, eat everything in moderation. So you are allowed to have a guilty pleasure. Hope you enjoy the homemade chips. We have the salsa. We have the mac and cheese, the deviled eggs. So feel free to ask more questions if you have any questions for me. But we have plates, silverware, and napkins over here. We have the cookbook. We have, and everything's here. Just fill up and take as much as you want.
How much is the book?
They're $16.99. And my testimony, a very short version, is in the very back of it. So that's kind of, I tell people, yeah, I'm selling a book, but I'm usually trying to get my testimony out there to see that God is amazing and He can do for you what He did for me.
How do you get your potatoes so thin?
My potatoes?
Yeah.
I use a mandolin. It's not the instrument, you know. It's the,
Slicer.
yes. And you have to be extremely careful. I stupidly did these for a book signing recently, actually last year, and I was going so fast, I lost the potato and it took my finger instead. So make sure you use the guard every time and go very slow. Little thought there for you. But the mandolin is what you do, but if you don't want to buy a mandolin, just use a knife, sharp knife like the one I've used here. It'll do the trick. All right. Any other questions? Feel free to ask, and if not, feel free to just dig right on in. And thank you so much.
Thank you.